April 19, 2019. The Detroit Red Wings announced the hiring of ex-captain and icon Steve Yzerman to be the next general manager. Obviously, the move was praised. He had just rebuilt the Tampa Bay Lightning from basement dweller to a future dynasty. But 7 years later, Steve Yzerman is no longer GM of the Red Wings, with no playoff appearance to show for it and now sole holder of the biggest playoff drought in the NHL. Before getting the job in Detroit, Yzerman had spent 9 years as GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning, was nominated for GM of the Year in his first season, drafted future Hall of Famers Nikita Kucherov and Andrei Vasilevsky, went to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2015 and won GM of the Year that very same year. In 2018, he stepped down from his GM position and became senior advisor to the new general manager Julien Brisebois. A year later, the GM position opened in Detroit and Yzerman was one of the prime candidates to get the job. And he did, and so the Yzerplan was born. 2 months after being hired, Yzerman faced his first test, drafting 6th overall in the 2018 NHL draft. With players like Cole Caulfield and Trevor Zegras still on the board, Yzerman took a risk and drafted defenseman Moritz Seider out of Germany, which surprised pretty much everybody, even Seider himself. A year later, Yzerman picked Swedish winger Lucas Raymond, 4th overall. Seider quickly developed into one of the NHL's top young defensemen, winning the Calder Trophy in 2022, while Raymond became a key piece of Detroit's offense. With these two young stars now in the organization, the Yzerplan finally had what looked like the core of a future cup contender. One of Steve Yzerman's greatest strengths in Tampa Bay was his ability to make trades. In Detroit, however, that strength became more of a weakness. His first blockbuster came in 2021 when he traded Anthony Mata to the Washington Capitals in exchange for Jakub Vrana, Richard Panik, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. At that time, it looked like a massive win for Detroit, but injuries and off-ice issues prevented Vrana from becoming the offensive weapon the Red Wings had envisioned. Then came the 2023 trade deadline. Within a span of just a few days, Yzerman traded Tyler Bertuzzi, Philip Hronek, and Jakub Vrana, adding even more draft capital to Detroit's growing collection of assets. Later that summer, he flipped some of those assets to acquire Alex DeBrincat, giving the Red Wings the elite goal scorer they had been searching for. On paper, the move made sense, but every step forward seemed to be followed by another step back. Detroit was always building for tomorrow, yet tomorrow never seemed to arrive. Free agency told a similar story. Some signings worked. Patrick Kane gave the Red Wings a much-needed offensive spark and quickly developed chemistry with Lucas Raymond. Veterans like David Perron provided stability, Ruben Sherratt eventually settled into a dependable role after a rough first season. Others, however, failed to move the needle. Andrew Copp, Justin Hall, and several other additions consumed valuable cap space without turning Detroit into a legitimate playoff team. Individually, none of these moves doomed the rebuild, but together, they created a roster that was good enough to stay competitive, yet never good enough to take the next step. If there's one thing the Yzerplan will ultimately be remembered for, it may be the deteriorating relationship between Steve Yzerman and Captain Dylan Larkin. Reports suggested their relationship had been strained for years, dating back to Yzerman's hesitation to immediately name Larkin the team's captain after Henrik Zetterberg's retirement. While those reports were never officially confirmed, they fueled speculation that the two weren't always on the same page. In 2021, Larkin was officially named captain of the Detroit Red Wings. He embraced the role, produced back-to-back 30-goal seasons, and became the face of the franchise. But despite his individual success, the playoff drought continued. By the 2024-25 season, the pressure had reached its highest point. Detroit was fighting for its first playoff berth in 2016, and many expected Yzerman to add to the roster at the trade deadline. Instead, the Red Wings made the one move, getting goalie Peter Mrazek and forward Craig Smith for former first-round pick Joe Veleno. Detroit narrowly missed the playoff once again. After the season, Larkin publicly expressed his disappointment with the team's lack of urgency at the deadline, making it clear that he believed the roster wasn't given enough help when it mattered most. 2 years later, after more than a decade with the organization, Larkin requested a trade out of Detroit. Whether their relationship had been broken for years or only fractured as the losses piled up, the result was the same. The face of the franchise wanted out. For many fans, in retrospect, it's easy to see where the Yzerplan failed. From lackluster free agent signings, bad trades, or even worse, no trades at all, promising young players that never pan out, and a bad relationship with the face of the franchise, nothing really went well for Yzerman in Detroit, and it's surprising that it took this long for change to finally arrive, and hopefully, this change is what made the Red Wings take the next step.